Hello guys, it's still been Emmanuel here. In the previous video, we left our application with a couple of problems. I hope you figured it out. If you didn't, you don't need to worry because I'm here to show you the light. So what are the problems we left in the previous video? One is what I'm going to show you right now. If we enter a route that doesn't exist, like you see I just entered a route that doesn't exist. Let's see, a route that exists will show you this nice page, and let's call that nice. A route that doesn't exist, like tech, will show you something like this. Now, this is really messy because you don't expect your user to see something like this on the page. So how do we fix this problem? We're going to fix the problem by displaying something nice on the screen for the user to see. We need to let them know that, hey, this page you're trying to visit doesn't actually exist on the application. So how do we do that? Now you can see that tech here is a route, and that's what we're trying to search for. So if you go to where we have this problem here on line 24, that is where we will solve the problem we're having. So I'm going down here to listen because I know where it is. Line 24 is down here, and an easy way to find it is to come to the page and then press Ctrl G on your keyboard and then type in the number 24, and that will go to that line for you. So here on this line, this is where we're having the problem. Now let's see how we can solve this. I'm going to put the return statement here, or keyword here, and this is going to prevent the execution of this line that I have down here. And what I want to do here is I want to nicely output the value that we have in the routes. So let's see what we have in the routes. So print, I want to print out these routes, and as usual, true. Now if we go back to the page and I refresh the page, this is what you're going to get here. So routes, like I told you in the previous video, is an array, and with that we are now creating an array here, an associative array here, by using whatever route we are providing here as the key, and whatever function or callback the user is passing here as the value of that route. And that's exactly why you see something like this. So this is the route we are creating. This is the function here. The closure object is actually the function that we are going to execute when the user visits the route. Now in the case of tech here, there's actually no route called tech here, and that's why it results to that error you're getting there on the page. So how do we fix this problem? So I'll go back to this, and then I am going to remove this code I wrote here now, and that will bring us back to the problem we're having here, the error message we're having here. So if you listen to the error carefully, it says value of type null is not callable, and that's because this problem is here. So we need to fix this problem here where the key doesn't exist. Now if the key doesn't exist, what do we want to do? Which will just return nothing. All right, so this is going to return an empty string back into action here. So action is going to be an empty string, although action, does it have to be an empty string? Because this is supposed to be an object. So why don't we just pass null here instead? So it's going to be null, and if we pass null there and we refresh the page, we still get another error here saying the value of type null is not callable. So what next should we do? the next thing you would want to do is come back to your code here and then create a conditional statement here saying is callable. Now the function is callable is supposed to check if whatever you're passing to it is something that can be executed, is something that can be called. If it's a function, then yes, it can be called. If it's a method, then yes, it can be called. So we will go ahead and pass in the action here. I don't even like the word action here because this is all right. I don't like the word action, but I can't think of a word for this variable. I'm just bad at naming variables. If you know the right word to use here, please leave that in the comment section below. So here we're checking if the action is actually callable, and if it's callable, then I will move this line of code in here. Then we want to call it. So if it's callable, then we want to call it, and that will prevent us from getting that error we're getting. So now if we go to a route that doesn't exist, we don't get anything on the screen. If we go to a route that does exist, we get whatever we are expected to see on the screen. Now, how do we now display a nice message telling the user that the page they are trying to visit doesn't exist? Now it's simple. All you need to do is go back to your code and then add a single line of code here, echo 404 page not found, and this will do the magic for us. But we're still having a problem here. I know you haven't figured it out. Well, you don't need to worry if you haven't. Let's go here and enter a route that doesn't exist, tech, and now we get the nice 404 page not found on the screen. But if we go back to a route that exists, we get what we're supposed to get, and then we still get the 404 page not found. So how do you fix this problem? Did you figure it out? Did you figure that was going to be the problem? How did you decide to solve the problem? So now I'm going to solve the problem by adding a return keyword here. Now return literally means we want to stop the execution of this listen function here. Don't execute anything after this statement, and that's going to prevent it from executing this statement we have below here. So now if we go back here and we refresh the page, we don't get the 404 page not found. But if we go to a route that doesn't exist at all on the page, we get the error message. Now this is just one step of solving this problem. This is not the perfect solution to the problem, but it's at least one step of solving the problem. Now let's leave this problem here and then move to the next problem that the application has. We are going to visit this line of code again and then modify it so we don't have the echo statement here. I don't even fancy it. So let's go, let's forget about this line of code and then go back here again. Now we need to be able to handle other requests too, and currently what we have here is just handling get requests. What if a user submits a form? What if we what if a user submits a form? What if we have a page like so we're adding a new route here, maybe login, and we're passing our callback. Oh, I almost created an arrow function. So function, and then we echo out HTML code. So how do we echo HTML code? HTML down here, and then I can create my form. My bad. If I'm actually doing something wrong, you can guide me through fixing the problem. I honestly suck at doing this thing. I don't know if I'm even doing the right thing, but let's go ahead. So a form here, what should this be? Text. And oops, this should have a name. Let's say username, and that's it. Another input down here, input with the type. This is going to be submit. So I just don't know why I suck at HTML. If you know HTML more than I do, please just teach me how to do this thing. All right, so I just created a form here. Now, if we go to the page, if we go and then we try to visit the login route, we're going to get our nice HTML page here, our good looking HTML page here. Let's call this, let's change this to submit value submit. I still can't tell why I keep putting this comma here. Now without the comma here, this is going to work fine. And another thing you need to know here is that we're trying to output HTML as a string. This is actually a bad thing to do. Anywhere you see me outputting HTML as a string, please don't do this at home. It's actually the worst thing that can ever happen to your application in PHP here. So don't output HTML as a string. You don't need to worry, because I will show you a best way of solving this problem. Now let's go on, refresh the page. Now we have our page here. Our form doesn't send a post request. So let's say we do method equal to post. We want it to send the post request, and then maybe an action here. We don't have an action for this. It's going to send a post request, but to what route? There's no route for it to send this request to. If we try to enter a username, like my username here, and hit submit, this is still doing this probably because I didn't refresh the page at all after making the modifications. So let's see, I refresh the page and I enter my username. We get nothing on the page, and there's nothing to actually handle these requests that we are sending to the server. So how do we handle that request? We need to allow our router now support this post method. So let's go back to the router here again, and then we're going to make some modifications here. So I want to create another function here, another method here called post of, and then in here I'm still going to pass in exactly a string. Let's scroll this up a little, right, so you can see my screen. So I'm passing exactly what I passed here before, down here again, route, the route, and then the callable is going to be called, let's make this call back instead of action. So call back and call back here. So call back instead of action. So this is going to be our call back here, and then as usual the function is supposed to return self. So because we're creating a chain, so we are returning self, and then this is going to repeat the same thing that we've done previously. These routes, but take a good look at this code and then tell me, do you think this is the right way to solve this problem? Is this the best way to solve the problem? No, because it doesn't even give us an option to put the route in a different it doesn't give us the option to put that route for get, or to have the route for a post method. So it's actually poor, and the only way to solve this problem is to create another function down here that will help us do the maths. So let's see, what do we call this function? So match match route, let's call it match route. And I'm just bad at naming stores, so if you know a better way to name stores, please help me. And instead of having I'm going to do the same thing we did here, and I'm too lazy to type this time around, so I will do it this way. And then I want to also pass in an array to this. So should it be an array? Instead of an array, we want a string, and this string is going to be the method. So method here. So the string is going to be the method. So whatever method you want to put the route in. So you can decide to put the route for get, and you can decide to put it in post. So that's exactly what we are trying to solve here. And I'm going to copy the code we are having here. Oh, let's copy from this to down here, and then replace these with this. All right. So, and what do we do next? We need to make some modifications here. So this is actually an associative array, like I showed you sooner. But we want this to go like two level down. So it's going to be something like this, where we have the method. So I want to have the method, the route, and then pass in the function to it. So it's going to make lots of sense when we try to see when we run the code and then check what we have in the route. So let's just go ahead and make the modifications here. So instead of doing this, we want to return this match route, and then we're going to pass in, let's end this, we're going to pass in the method. You can actually, this is PHP 8, which means you can actually use named parameters and order the stuff anyhow you want to order it. So I'm saying the method is going to be get. So okay, this is our get function. So the method, any method we pass, any route we pass in here is going to the get route, and then we can pass in what do we pass next? We can pass in the routes next. So route is going to be whatever route we're providing to the user, and then the callback is going to be equal to callback, like this. So now this is return. Remember that this is returning the object. So since it's returning the object, it's fine that we return it here like this. So what it's going to resolve to being the object. So we will return back the object, and we'll modify this to look like this. So I'm going to copy the code we have here and then paste it here, and then change this to post instead of get. Now with what we have here, we now have our router now has support for both post and get method. So if we go back here, we can actually create a new let me do this down here, create a new route down here. I'll move this to the top so you can see my screen clearly. Post, and then slash here, login, and this is going to take care of our post request. So any post request that comes to the server will be handled here. So here we can decide to show the user whatever we want them to see. So we can decide to say, okay, see the form again. We're going to display the form back again, and then down here let's do echo pre, because I want to nicely format an array. So echo print r, oh, my screen is too low, so I hope you can see my screen clearly. I just don't want a situation where you can't see my screen. I'm going to output the super global variable post, and then I'll echo the end tag for pre. And let's go back to our browser, refresh the browser. Oh my goodness, I get not found. What did I do wrong? Emmanuel, what did you do wrong? All right, so we have login here, let's get, and then we have it here as post, and in the router here we have a post that matches these and then sends and then does this for us. So what's actually the problem here? Let's see. Oh my goodness, something is wrong with the application. All right, so let's go to the bottom here. I hope you figured out the problem. So let's go down here, and like I did previously, I'll just no, let's do it here. So instead of displaying the 404 page not found, or let's leave the 404 page not found, and then we echo out the pre tag. So I'm kind of like repeating myself over and over. If you know a way that will help me fix that problem, so I don't repeat myself over and over, like writing this print statement over, echo the pre tag, then print out whatever I want to print out over and over, then please help me out. So here I want to output the routes so that I can see what I have done. I want to see the problem I'm having here in my code. I want to know what I did wrong. So let's go here, refresh the page, and nicely, this is exactly what I want. So you can see that our route is now divided into two. We have the get routes and we have the post routes, and because of this modification I made here, it is causing the problem I have in this application. So how do we fix this problem? If you go back here where we are listening to the routes, you can see that we are just passing these routes here like this, but we are not passing the request method here. So we need to pass in the request method. If the request method is get, then we should be looking for the route here. If the request method is post, then this is where the application should be looking for the route. So how do we fix this problem? Now what we're going to do here is we're going to update this code, because if I do this echo statement here and we click on this, I don't think that's even what I want to. Anyway, this is going to return back null, so it's not going to display anything on the screen because it's definitely going to be null. So we need to go that level down to get what we want. So we need to go 2 levels. The first level is going to be this. I think I need to I just have to show you here by doing this. So we have to do something like square brackets. If the request method is get, so if the person is sending a get request, we're going to pass in get here, and that will now give us a list of all the get methods like this, and then we can now look for whatever route the person is trying to visit. So if the route is login, then we'll pass in login there, and that will return back the callback or the closure object that we're supposed to execute. So right, let's go there and fix the problem. So let's remove these because I'm a hard coding. So let's go back here and then fix that problem. So the only way to fix the problem is to get the request method that the person is sending, the request method the person is sending to the server. So we're going to pass that in here. I'm not going to advise you to do something like this. So I know this is going to be vulnerable, but if you know a better way, please help us. Leave leave the solution in the comment section. I'm also going to show you my own solution too, but I want you to leave your own solution in the comment section. So this line of code here is actually vulnerable. Leave your own in the comment section below and then show us how we should fix this problem so our application is not vulnerable. I'm going to prove it to you that it's vulnerable too, but let's fix the problem we are having first, because that is very important. So I want to pass in the request. What am I spelling? I'm just bad at spelling. So I'm passing in the request method here, and then before accessing the route, and this is going to fix the problem that we have. So let's go back to the code here and then refresh the page. Now you see that we're having this, and this is home, and I still got an error. So we've just been moving from one problem to another problem. Now how do we solve this one? Here you can see that we still get the page not found here at the top of our page, and although we have the routes we're trying to visit this home route, and this home route is supposed to be found here in the get method here, but we are not getting what we expect. Instead, we're getting the 404 page not found. So let's go back here and then see how we can debug this code. First, I will start by doing a var dump here. So I want to dump out the value of action. I want to know what action is. Let's do br just to make sure that we have the line break here. And then I'm going to refresh here, and then you can see that we get null. Outputting the action, we're getting null. It means that this is not getting us back what we want it to get us back. So why is it not getting it back? When we had just route, it was working fine. But this is definitely the problem. So let's try to output request and then see what the problem is. Now if we output request, you can see that the get here is capitalized, which means if we send post is also going to be capitalized. Wow. But what we have here is lowercase. So how do we fix the problem? We need to make this one become lowercase so that we can find it here. Remember, it's case sensitive. Naming stuffs here in PHP is case sensitive. So we need to make this lowercase so we can find this. Our application can find that for us. So what I'm going to do here is I will cut this code I'm having here, and then I'm going to put it in a function called string to lower. So I'm pronouncing the string to lower. All right, so string to lower, and then pass this here. That's now going to make this lowercase, and if we pass it there, it's going to display the right page. I'm already confident of myself, but let's check it out and see. Wow, it worked. We are displaying the right page because we made this lowercase. Now let's get rid of all the crazy codes we added here, like this one, and then this one we have here at the bottom. We don't want it. Right, so here we refresh, we get this page nicely. We go back to login, we get the login page. I try to enter my username, and if I hit submit, wow, this is coming out here. Now the reason you're seeing this here at the bottom of the page is because we created another route that handles a post method here. So since this route is handling it, it's going to display what we're passing into this function here, because the function, as you know, is what we want the user to see. So the function displays what we want the user to see. And now you can see that here, when we go to the get route, we are going to display just the form. So if we go to the get route, we display just the form. But if we decide to go to the post route, and the only way we can go to this post route is when the form is submitted. So you see that we're solving this problem here this way. So when the form is submitted, we want to display the form again and then display whatever the user entered in the form. And this is perfect. So if we do this, we can see this on the screen, the name, the username I entered on the screen here. So this is actually solving that problem. Now, what do you think is the next big problem this application has? Are you thinking of it? Have you figured it out? Right? But before I move on, if you have any problem with what we just did now, please leave a question in the comment section below and I will gladly answer your question. Alright, so what if we want to serve HTML files instead of what we are having here? We actually want to display HTML files and not what we are seeing here on this page here. So how do we do that? Now it's simple. All you need to do is create the HTML file, and I'm going to create my HTML file here in the app directory. In the app directory here, I'll create a new folder here and I'm going to call this view, because this application is going to grow into becoming an MVC framework, and this is how you do things. So we're going to put everything the user is supposed to see in the view. You can actually call this folder whatever you want to call it. You can call it themes, you can call it views, or whatever you want to call it, but I will stick to calling it views. Now in this folder here, this is where I'm going to put the file I want to display to the user. So all my HTML code are going to be here. So I can create a HTML code, HTML file like index.html, or I shouldn't even use the word index. Why do I need the word index? You can create home.html here, and I'm going to create them based on the what we have here, the routes we have. So we have home route, about route, and login route. So let's go ahead. I will create a new one for about.html, and then I'm going to create login.html. Now it doesn't matter, we're writing in PHP. We can also call this PHP. Our server is going to execute this correctly because this is a PHP application. Now it doesn't matter if you call it PHP or not PHP, but all that matters is that we want to move the HTML codes that we've written here into those files, and we're going to be executing, or we're going to be getting those files when the user visits the route. So we're going to decide what we're going to decide what page we want the user to see, or what HTML documents we want to display to the user when the user visits the route. So here I will move the code I just copied now into this file, and then I'll go back here and I want to move these two into the about, right? I don't want the echo, I don't want these. Let's verify that, yeah, I did the right thing there. And then I'm going to move this form from here into login, and here I will move this code from here still into login. Don't mind what I'm doing, this is actually very rough. We don't need the echo pre-tag because this is HTML, so we can actually write the pre-tag. I want this to still be PHP. All right, so this is still going to be PHP here like this, and this is going to be fine. Let's go back to index.php and then see what's next. Or we don't want this HTML codes at all. Right, so now what we're going to do here is we are going to include these files here. So include dot slash source slash app slash views slash what's the name of the file, home.html, and then I'll copy this and paste it here, then just change this to about, and change this to login. Remember, this is a PHP file, and then login.php like this. All right, so I have just done this, and this is actually cool. That's what I think. I think this is actually cool, but this is not even the best way to solve this problem. I know you're already thinking of how do we get rid of this include that we have here. We're going to get rid of everything, but let's go ahead and test this to see if it works. So for the sake of learning, it works. And if I type in my username here, wow, we get the username. If I go to the home, we see the home page. If I go to about, we see about page. And if I enter something, a route that doesn't exist, we see the page not found. And this is actually cool, but you don't want to have something like this in your code. You don't actually want to have stuff like this. So how do we prevent writing ourselves from writing a lot of these here? If you want to know how I will solve this problem, please hit the subscribe button, like the video, because it's going to help me a lot. And thank you for watching this video. Stay tuned for the next one. Thank you.